This program is one of a series which accompanies the General Electric LM2500 instructions for the mechanical and electrical rigging of the power lever angle actuator and is designed as a supplement to the printed work package found in the maintenance manual. Aft looking forward, the power lever angle, or PLA, actuator is located on the forward half of the engine at the 7 o'clock position. It is mounted on the left side of the fuel pump. Before beginning the rigging procedure, it will be necessary to de-energize the PLA actuator control circuit and disconnect the electrical lead. The fuel filter and the pressurizing valve have been removed from the fuel pump to allow a better angle of view of this procedure from underneath the engine. Now the throttle linkage may be disconnected from the main fuel control lever and the PLA actuator lever. This is done by removing the nut and the bolt which hold the rod end bearings to the clevis at each end. The clevis is the forked metal piece located at either end of the throttle linkage. When the throttle linkage has been removed, install the wide rig pin, number 1C6744P04, into the forward rig pin hole. Make sure that the end of the rig pin is flush with the face of the PLA actuator lever in order to prevent any interference with the clevis. Now, position the power lever on the main fuel control to the rig position. To do this, insert the slimmer rig pin, number 1C6744P03, into the aft rig pin hole on the main fuel control. Rotate the power lever back and forth until the pin is able to drop down into position, with the lever resting lightly against the pin. Reinstall the linkage assembly using the bolts without the nuts. Make sure that the left-hand clevis is forward. This end is stamped LH and has a dull gray jam nut instead of a shiny one. Do not install the linkage assembly as before, with the lever arms of the PLA and the main fuel control inside the clevis slots. Place the clevis prongs on top of the lever arms and insert the bolt all the way through each end. While holding the PLA actuator lever against the forward vertical rig pin, the horizontal rig pin toward the rear should lightly touch the fuel control lever. If this is the case, then the rigging is correct. Remove both of the rig pins. And install the linkage so that the PLA actuator lever arm and the fuel control lever arm are within the clevis prongs, with the left-hand clevis forward. Install a bolt and a nut at each end. And torque them to 55 to 70 inch-pounds each. Finally, back off the nut on the bolt connecting the link assembly clevis to the PLA actuator 1/4 of a turn to prevent binding. If, however, the rigging is found to be incorrect and the aft rigging pin does not lightly touch the fuel control lever, then the length of the linkage assembly must be adjusted. First, pull out the bolt at each end and remove the linkage. Then cut the safety wire and remove it from the turnbuckle jam nuts. Back off the jam nuts on each end of the linkage as far as possible. The dull gray jam nut on the left has left-hand threads. Placing the linkage above the lever arms, adjust the linkage as much as necessary to allow the bolts to be inserted into the PLA actuator lever and the main fuel control lever at the same time. Do this by turning the middle section of the linkage. Insert the bolts through each end. Do this by turning the middle section of the linkage. Now, hold the PLA actuator lever against the forward vertical rig pin and adjust the linkage until the fuel control lever lightly touches the aft horizontal rig pin. Hold the center link and tighten the jam nuts, finger tight only. Next, carefully remove the bolt from the clevis at each end and remove the linkage assembly. On a flat work surface, hold the center link and torque the jam nuts to 55 to 70 inch-pounds. Use a flat surface for support and to prevent clevis rotation. Now check for the proper clevis and thread engagement by ensuring that a number 54 drill bit or a 55/1000th of an inch diameter wire will not pass through the inspection holes at each end of the link. Now reinstall the linkage assembly onto the PLA actuator and the fuel control, setting the clevis arms on top of the lever arms and securing them with the bolts. Hold the PLA actuator lever against the forward rig pin and check to see that the fuel control lever is touching the aft rig pin lightly. If the rigging is not correct, repeat this series of steps until the rigging is adjusted properly. Now, remove the linkage assembly from the lever arms. Safety wire the jam nuts to the center hole of the link. Run one strand of wire through the hole and then run the twisted wire to the other nut. On the engine, remove the rig pins from each end. Install the linkage so that the PLA actuator lever arm and the fuel control lever arm are within each clevis, with the left-hand clevis forward. Install a bolt and a nut at each end. Torque them each to 55 to 70 inch-pounds. Finally, back off the nut on the bolt which connects the link assembly clevis to the PLA actuator lever 1/4 turn to prevent binding. The mechanical rigging of the power lever angle actuator is complete. To check the electrical rigging of the PLA actuator, first make sure that the mechanical rigging is correct. Set the command voltage to provide the idle position of the PLA actuator. Place the gauge between the min-stop of the fuel control lever. This is the equivalent to the nominal 12 degrees power lever angle, or 0%. Adjust the throttle control system so that the feedback voltage nulls the command voltage when the power lever lightly touches the gauge. Increase the command voltage to provide the full power position of the PLA actuator, or 100%. Insert the slim rig pin into the fuel control. Adjust the throttle control system so that the feedback voltage nulls the command voltage when the fuel lever cam lightly touches the rig pin at the nominal 113.5 degrees power lever angle, or 100% power. This completes the electrical rigging of the power lever angle actuator. For more information concerning the mechanical or electrical rigging procedures, refer to the maintenance manual for the marine model of the General Electric LM2500 gas turbine.